On the hot seat. What are we calling this?
Nick, Mark, George.
The Nick, Mark, George interview?
Welcome. No, Nick, Mark, George, welcome to the Rate Report. That's what we're going to call it, right?
Yeah, sure.
That's what you call it.
Rate recap.
Yeah, we're going to call this the Rate Report.
The Rate Report.
Yeah.
Okay. Official.
Do we have another name that we could use?
We can call this Rate Game Raw.
Okay. Rate Game Raw.
Rate Game Uncensored.
Rate Game Uncensored. All right, so...
Rate Game Real Time.
Rate Game Real Time.
Real Talk.
Rate Game Real Talk. I like that. That's good.
Me too.
Okay. All right, Nick, Mark, George.
That's me.
Nick, Mark, George. Welcome to the Rate Real Talk.
Rate Game Real Talk.
Rate Game Real Talk. I am your host, Mollie, and Nick's wife. So, Nick, how does it feel to be interviewed today, to be in the hot seat?
Feels good. I feel like, we've been trying different formats of content and swing and a miss. So
yeah.
Hopefully this changes things.
Yeah, so let's dive in.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so Nick, let's get to know a little bit about you.
Sure.
Where are you from? Where were you raised?
Born and raised in New Jersey. Actually born in Manhattan, in Columbia, but raised in New Jersey, North New Jersey, Bergen County.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about when was the first time you maybe knew that you loved sports, or that that you were a sports guy? Or because not every kid grows up to like sports. So what drew you to sports first?
Yeah, I don't know if it was something that like clicked, but more so like something that I remember as one of my earliest memories was just being at Madison Square Garden with my grandpa and being on pretty much the court. I think it was a sign of the times that we could even be this close. And I remember, essentially getting an autograph from Charles Barkley and being...
Oh, the reporter on TV.
No, Charles Barkley is a New York Knick.
Who now is a reporter on TV.
No, it's Walt Clyde.
Not a reporter, but he does he sits at a table and reports with people. Charles Barkley.
Not Charles. Not Sir Charles.
What does he do now?
Charles?
Oh, okay. I thought he was on TV.
Wait, Charles Barkley?
Yeah.
Is different than Charles Oakley.
The guy who's on TV.
Charles Barkley is different than, Charles Oakley.
Is on TV.
Is not on TV. Charles Barkley.
Is on TV.
Is on TV.
Okay, so you said Charles
Oakley.
Got it. My bad. That's a classic mix-up.
No, it's very close.
Yeah.
It's very close.
That's
easily confused.
That could happen to anyone.
I think it just happened to me. I think I just confused the two of them. Okay. But it was Charles Oakley, not Charles Barkley.
You saw Charles Oakley.
I saw Charles Oakley. I got an
For
autograph.
reference, Charles Barkley was also an NBA player.
Yes, same era too.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Classic
Did anyone, that's
classic
a good trivia. That's a classic mix-up.
Oakley, Barkley, Charles.
Okay, so Charles Oakley.
Yeah, that's my guy. And got his autograph. The Knicks were playing the Dallas Mavericks. I remember that much. And
wow.
Yeah.
You got his autograph?
Got his autograph.
On what? On a piece of paper?
No, like a Knicks pennant. And then, it was hung up in my room.
Wow.
Yeah. And, my name is Nick. So.
Yeah. So you were like, this is really cool. It's fascinating as a kid.
Yeah. His team name is Knicks. My name is Nick. They're from New York. Like orange.
So you think that's what really drew you to sports first?
Yeah, I think that moment. And then shortly thereafter, I must have been like first or second grade, I met this kid named Pat Harrington. And he was also a huge Knicks fan. And he had this Knicks hat that he must have worn like every day to school. And he wore it so much that the back like broke, but he fixed it himself by putting a Band-Aid on it. I remember I thought that was the coolest thing, that he put a Band-Aid on his Knicks hat to like keep it intact. And yeah, we would just like, all the little arts and crafts that we would make as second graders would always be with Knicks themed. I remember I made like a a pot holder that was like orange and blue that had like, Patrick Ewing's number on it, another Nick.
Yeah.
I remember, I made like, macaroni picture frames, and it was blue and orange.
Really?
Yeah. It was just
I remember making macaroni picture frames, but I did not make them blue and
Yeah.
orange.
Everything I did was pretty much Knicks.
Wow. Okay, so that's the first team you fell in love with.
The New York Knicks, correct.
The New York Knicks.
Yeah, my first love, my one true love.
Okay. Love that.
Yeah.
What was the first sport you played?
First sport I played probably was also basketball, if not soccer, and maybe soccer because that was probably like the youngest that you could like form a competitive team, I guess. I remember like the first competitive tryouts that I had when it came to sports was soccer. So it probably was soccer.
Soccer?
Yeah, we couldn't have been like older than.
Did you have to do tryouts for soccer?
There was a tryout. Yeah, I was
How'd you do?
I made the team. There were some kids that
How old were you?
Must have been like 11, maybe 12.
Okay.
Maybe younger. There were some kids that didn't make the team. It was heartbreaking.
You practice?
I practiced as much as you could. Like practicing soccer on your own is like kind of hard. So I don't think I really got that. It was pretty much like, let's see who can, figure out these drills the quickest, and like some, concept of like teamwork.
All right. So you made the team.
Made the team.
How did it feel?
Felt great. The coach was this hard-nosed Armenian guy, Mr. Papag. He, it was cool because like I wasn't really playing. I guess I was playing for Harrington Park, but there was probably like some other kids from other towns. So it felt a little bit more official in that way, that like I got to break away from, small town Harrington Park and play with some other kids.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, it was still just like a little kids travel team.
Do you remember what it felt like to lose your first game?
I don't know if my first game.
Soccer?
It probably was. Must have been, yeah.
Okay, well, what's the game that you really remember losing and feeling?
I remember, funny enough, when I made the travel basketball team for Harrington Park Middle School in my 8th grade year, my final year, that I never played on this team. I was like the human victory cigar. I only got in when we were up by like 20 points. But I remember for a lot of the games.
What's the human victory cigar?
You basically put in somebody who's like.
Is that a sports term?
It's a sports term.
Okay. That's a good one. Okay, so you were the human victory cigar for the traveling basketball team.
Pretty much every sports
of
team
Harrington Park. I love that. Okay.
Every sports team I've been
Please
on.
continue.
Yeah, well, that team in particular, I just was not playing. So I was like essentially a cheerleader. And for all the games that we lost, those were games that I never got in because we were losing. They wouldn't put me in if we were losing, because if we were losing, it probably meant that we were either losing by a little or if we were losing by a lot. There was just no opportunity for me to get in. But I remember all the times that we lost, I would cry, like as if I was playing, because it would mean a lot to me. I took it very personally. More so. More so than the kids that were starting.
You didn't even play the game.
I never played, exactly, and that's why. And
you still
the whole team was kind of thrown off because they were like, "Why isn't it crying? Like he didn't get in." Yeah, like we should be crying. If anybody's crying, it should be the people that played, not like the guy that didn't get in. So yeah, I think
that's interesting. That's a telling sign of who you grew to be as a person.
I think so. Yeah,
who I know you to be today.
Yeah.
As someone who knows Nick pretty personally, I'll be the first to say Nick hates losing more than he loves winning. He says that all the time.
That's the truth.
Okay, so let's move on.
You're done with that?
Do we think we got a good background story? Or
yeah, no, I think you tapped into it. I think I hate losing.
Hate losing.
Hate it.
Okay, so on that theme of, losing, let's get into what brought us here today. into this segment we're doing, the sit down segment with Nick.
Rate Game Real Talk.
Rate Game Real Talk.
Rate Game Real Talk. RGRT.
RGRT.
Hashtag RGRT. Out there.
Yeah, it's out there. It's out there for the meta.
For the Slovenians and the Serbians.
There's a ton of other people watching this.
Mexicans.
There's everybody.
Not really.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on the theme of what it felt like to lose and, what brought us here today.
What brought us here
Rate
today?
Game Real Talk.
Rate Game Real Talk, yes.
What did it feel like to reach your personal rock bottom?
Man, you're going to talk about losing. That's probably, I would say, it's the toughest L, because you have to admit it to yourself, which is, I think, tough. Usually when, you lose, it's in some sort of like team aspect. So whether it's at work or whether it's on a, basketball team, soccer team, you can kind of look around and say like, well, yeah, I might have screwed up, but like somebody also did, or like, I might have done something bad, but if this person hadn't done this, maybe things would be different. Whereas that moment in time, there was nobody to point fingers at. Actually, there was. It was like right in the mirror. So it was, I think, something that I've been avoiding, obviously, for a long time, and had been probably, one of those things where you just know, but you don't want to admit it. So I think, yeah, it's more, it's not so much losing as it is at admission. And that's tough. It's tough to admit. It's tough to say out loud to somebody other than yourself.
So when you called me that spring of 2023 and told me about the rock bottom that you had hit, and it was related to sports and to gambling.
Correct.
How did it feel to call me, which at the time I was your girlfriend?
Yes.
And admit that to me?
I feel like it was equal parts scary, but then also a relief, because that was when I really knew that I was done. In telling you, it was almost like I had taken this little burden off of my shoulders, because I wasn't like pretending anymore. So, admitting it to myself, the very next thing that I did was admit it to, not only were you my girlfriend, you were my roommate.
Yeah, I was your roommate.
So
I just moved in.
You just moved in. Probably like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks in this apartment. So I felt like, if anything, I wanted to give you the opportunity to move out.
Yeah.
So it was more of like a courtesy than I think it was, calling you and saying like,
yeah,
this is what's going on.
So when you hit that rock bottom due to gambling, and sports, gambling on sports.
Gambling on sports, yep.
What happened with your love for sports?
What happened with it?
What happened? What happened with sports?
If I could describe it, put like a visual or a metaphor on it, it's almost like that thing that you used to find like a lot of comfort in, all of a sudden became like unfamiliar, and almost like I felt betrayed a little bit. I felt like a little bit angry. And I think at first it was like with all of the factors that played into it, which is like the legalization of gambling in this state, which, prior to 2023 and 2022, I used to have to go through like bookies and stuff, but in that year, which is when I, gambled and lost the most money, the quickest, I had like 3 different apps that I could have, gone on at any given time to gamble away. all my money. So yeah, I think like my first reaction was to blame that and
Yeah.
be like angry at those circumstances. And then yeah, I think it was just very sad. It was just kind of like, you know, almost like an ex-girlfriend or something that you used to love that you just like couldn't see anymore because it hurt too much, and it was uncomfortable. It's like really uncomfortable.
Like you just,
It just
that's a good way to put it.
It just made me uncomfortable. It made me feel uneasy.
Yeah.
It made me feel like
That's a good way to
not,
describe it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what it feels like, but I would imagine it's like something that you're like,
it just made me feel awkward.
we had great memories at one point, but you've really disappointed me, or you're not what I thought you were, or.
And quickly, it's like
Yeah.
I can't be myself around you anymore.
Yeah.
But also, you know, that version of myself that I was like before that breakup was just a terrible version of me.
Mm-hmm.
As a person that got like very far away from, you know, that feeling in the first place when I was just like a little kid being on that Knicks court.
Yeah. On that note, that's a nice note. What is the innocence and purity of sports that you love, like, you know, that you loved before gambling?
I think for me, what I get so emotional about with sports is the moments in time, though they're very fleeting, where you can see, and it happens so quickly, basically the culmination of somebody's like hard work and dedication and resilience in a play or a shot or like a pass or a home run. And then basically like the visceral reaction of not just the person or like the, you know, the team, but then like the fans and like everybody who's able to witness it.
Yeah.
And I think there's just something about it that is just so pure and it's just so authentic that when you are able to see it with your own eyes, whether it's in real time or even like on replays, I'll find myself just getting so caught up in it. It just elicits like such a raw emotion from me internally because I can tell that it's almost like everybody's in on it, but there's nothing but like, you know, just like pure. Yeah. It's just like very honest. I think that's what it is. Just like everybody's in on it.
Yeah, it's a sense of community and shared excitement, shared joy.
Yep. And heartbreak also.
And heartbreak, shared heartbreak. Knowing that you can just share in those feelings with a lot of other people.
Strangers.
Is a fascinating feeling to feel as a human.
It is.
For sure.
It is.
I think, you know, when I'm at a live game, and like one of my favorite things when I'm at a live game is when somebody starts the ole, 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 ole,
the
chants, any chants. And then everyone just flows in and you have this like insane harmony of a chant, whatever it is.
It's contagious.
And you get chills all over. And I mean, the happiness that's exuded from you and from everyone it's honestly uncomparable to, is that the word? Incomparable? To any other thing I can think of.
It's incomparable.
Yeah.
You had it.
I'm doing the Spanish version. Es incomparable.
There we go. We got some Spanish, folks.
Some Spanish. Es incomparable a cualquier otra cosa.
Let's go.
So that's my Spanish brain.
Shout out Mexico.
Yeah. It's an amazing sensation to feel. So I think that's what I agree. Okay, so let's bring it back to that weekend that you lost everything of your personal finances due to gambling, and what you did to pull yourself out of that and And so 2 questions. What
Mm.
did you do to pull yourself out of that rock bottom?
Mm-hmm.
And at what point did you start to fall in love with sports again?
So I would say to pull myself out, there wasn't really that. Like it wasn't like you know, hey, you gotta you know get back the money or something like that. It was more like I had to get away and I had to like actually like put some distance in between
Mm-hmm.
all that behavior and all of that, all those like vices. It wasn't just like sports gambling. It was the drinking. It was all the stuff that
Mm-hmm.
when combined just really lowered my inhibitions
Yeah.
and allowed me to just be very extreme in that way. So really just pushing pause on that and trying to figure myself out in the form of like meetings, in the form of like trying to kind of reach out and speak with others who might have gone through like similar experiences, talking about like Gamblers Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, and not watching sports. It's obviously a huge one. Leaning into physical activity and spending time with you, writing a lot,
Yeah.
keeping a journal and a diary, writing a lot of poetry, going to those meetings, hearing like shared experiences. I think doing that for what was it, like 7-8 months,
Mm-hmm.
and really stepping away from that lifestyle and like that passion of mine allowed me to like detach in some way and almost like break the pattern and the habit and the addiction that I had developed. And that, I think, allowed me to at least have perspective and kind of look back.
Yeah.
And so when I started to, it was like, it was slow. It was not something that I wanted to rush because I knew that, watching sports also meant that I had to watch gambling and see advertisements and commercials. So I feel like it was almost like I'd watch something and then I'd take a break, watch something, take a break. It was hard, honestly. I didn't really have like this seminal moment, at least right away,
Yeah.
where I was able to fall back in love.
All right, but you started to watch some sports.
Yeah.
Because how did the idea of RateGame come to you?
Yeah. So the idea came to me right here, actually. I think I was sitting right here. You weren't here.
Yeah.
That was like a year removed from that rock bottom. So it was like in January of
Almost a year.
2024. Yeah, I was watching the NFL Championship Sunday. So I was watching 2 NFL games. There was a game between the Ravens and the Chiefs. That was like kind of unremarkable. Actually, I know that the Chiefs won only because they went to the Super Bowl, and then they won the Super Bowl. But the other game was the Lions versus the 49ers, and the Lions were up big at halftime, which was unexpected. They were like the underdog, and then they blew it in the second half,
Mm-hmm.
and the 49ers came back. It was like this incredible, almost like turning point where like the stadium came back to life, and I was like sitting right here. I was getting into it, and the game ended. The 49ers celebrating on the field. And I think it was like the first time in probably a year that I wasn't thinking about gambling and I was just experiencing sports.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember what this feeling is like. This is a great feeling. This is what it's about. Maybe I can do this again. Yeah. So that was like, I guess, the kernel of the idea for RateGame. I wanted to understand or see like where that game ranked in all of the football games that I've seen in my life. So I went to the interwebs and I did all my little searches and I couldn't find it. I thought for sure somebody would have come up with this idea and started a website or
A blog
A
or
blog or just
anything?
like, yeah, something to do with like, hey, what are your top games? Well, here's my top games,
Mm-hmm.
debate. And I couldn't find it. So I kind of started to bounce around like names. And I remember back in my youth when I was playing basketball or soccer, basically like any team sport, at the end of the competition, we'd just line up both teams, winners or losers, and we'd just go down the line and shake each other's hand, and we'd say, "Great game, great game." It's like, "Great game, oh, rate game, interesting." So, kind
It
of
is
like,
pretty amazing how the idea just came to you.
yeah, kind of just came to me in that moment.
What was the gut feeling that made you realize, hey, maybe this is something I should run with?
So I think it was the fact that it seemed so obvious, and it seemed like it was missing because right now, even today, right, the sports entertainment landscape is just inundated with like gambling and just the same old, like all of the huge traditional sports media, um, you know, TV stations, whatever you want to call it, that I've grown up with are just kind of at the whim of these massive sponsorship deals that they have with all these gambling companies. So they've kind of gotten away from, the stories and
Yeah.
like the good stuff that sports really give us. So I think I recognized that, and I knew that it was not something that would be popular because I think the allure, obviously, of gambling is that you can make money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the fact that RateGame has nothing to do with money and never will, I think was, something that early on I had to kind of embrace and lean into because I'm not like, I don't really have anything to offer
Yeah.
other than like, here's this little diary for you, the sports fan.
So, yeah, okay, so that's amazing. What was, I guess I would want people to know, and what I'm curious about is people come up with ideas all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But what is that thing that you had
Mm-hmm.
or that you felt
Mm-hmm.
that drove you to cash out your 401k,
Yep.
call me
Yes.
and tell me I'm diving in?
Mm-hmm.
Please dive with me.
Mm.
Like,
So I think it's a great question. I think honestly, if I'm to think about what it was probably that little spark that I got, sitting on this couch, a little feeling that was kind of that lost connection, that kind of that path back to that love affair that I used to have with sports. I felt like that was probably risking, all my money to go find and chase and kind of preserve, and not only preserve for me selfishly, but also extend to other people and see if they too felt the same way I did. I more so I wanted to know, or wanted to at least see if I was alone or not. Yeah, I was kind of longing for that sense of community.
That chant.
Correct.
That sports
yeah.
chant
There
feeling.
you go. Way to go, babe.
Yeah.
Crushing it.
Thank you.
So professional. I don't even feel like you're my wife right now.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I would say that was a good answer. I still am not convinced. Like, how does someone take that leap? Like that's a leap. That's a risk.
Sure.
You already blew your savings.
Mm-hmm.
You have not built them back by the time this idea comes to you.
Mm-hmm.
You're okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Now you take the very little remaining of your savings, your 401k that you're not supposed to use until you're retired.
Sure.
And you blow it again.
Yeah.
But this time you blow it on hiring a dev team
Yep.
to help you build this idea for this app.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying is, you take a major risk and gamble all your money.
Mm-hmm.
How did you know this was an okay risk to take?
So I didn't. I think that's the whole, like double-edged sword with risk. It's like you don't know, and I still don't know, and I won't know for a while, right? I don't think that's going to be something that I can give an answer to. Like, was it worth it or is it worth it? But I know it's almost the bigger risk is not taking the chance and almost living with that what if and that regret. And so I think what was really advantageous about coming up with the idea for RateGame and going for it at the time that I did was I had a sporting event, lo and behold, that was going to help me prove it out or not. Like I knew that in using all this money and building RateGame for a single sport, single league, which was March Madness, that by the end of it, I was either going to have some people to a reasonable degree that were like using it and liking it, or not. Right? There really was like no middle ground. It was going to be something that I failed with quickly, or was enough of a success that would tell me to keep going.
Yeah. All right. So you hire the dev team. And what was it like starting to put ideas down to paper?
Yeah. So hiring the dev team and, taking ideas and thoughts and putting them into visions and designs, I think was equal parts scary and exciting.
Yeah.
Because, it's like, I think it's super vulnerable to take something that like is in your head and then put it into first a, Figma design or like even like a sketch, and then into like a wireframe.
Yeah.
And then into, like colors and like placement. And then this whole idea of like, using the stoplight and the semaphore system over like, the traditional star rating system.
Yeah.
I think that was like a big leap of faith. It's all really just like mini risks. It's like one big risk broken down into little mini risks.
How were you able to sleep at night?
I feel like you're setting me up there. I wasn't really. I mean, I was maybe sleeping like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, no. So Nick, when he was building this app, it was 40 days.
Yeah, thereabouts. Like
he had about 40 days to build this app from the moment he hired this developer team to the moment that they were going to launch it into the meta world.
The meta world?
The meta world.
Very good. Just iOS. I didn't have enough money for
iOS. And yeah, no, he barely slept. I think you slept about 3-4 hours a night. Sometimes if you were lucky, you slept 5 right on this couch.
Yep.
Because I was in our bedroom getting my beauty sleep. I was like, you take the risk, but I will not risk my beauty sleep.
No, we can't have that.
Can't have that. So, but Nick did not lose any beauty while building this app.
Thanks,
which
love.
Which is a relief.
Love that for me.
Anyway, so what advice would you give to someone who has an idea but doesn't feel like they can take the risk? I mean, you were not here's the thing, you were actually not in any position to take another risk. So what would you give to someone who, is trying to take a risk? I mean, you took a risk you shouldn't even have taken.
Sure. I would say, yeah, like that there's a pretty good benchmark for you. Like if I'm, able to do it with my 401k and, just an idea and not much else, then what's your excuse? It's almost like, are you okay with knowing or not knowing? And if the answer is no, then there you go. And that's another thing too. Like you're never gonna know. You're never gonna have like that validation or that proof. So you might as well just do it for yourself, because at the end of the day, that's really what matters, is that you're able to, prove to yourself or not. I think that's the most important thing, because like that's at the end of the day, the person or like the voice that is like constantly in your head, you know, saying like, oh, you know, you didn't take that risk, or like, you should have done this, you should have done that.
Was there a moment while building the app before launching it that you doubted yourself?
Yeah, I think the lowest, I would say, the worst days were when I would go to Barkley Center, or when I would go to Madison Square Garden, and I didn't have an app, and I didn't really have even like a website. It was like a really basic website I built off of some website building tool. I forget. And I'd hand the cards out, and I'd try and pitch people, and they'd just like, nod and smile. And then I'd come back here and I'd check to see how many people signed up, and it'd be like 0, like 1. That's tough, that's really tough, especially like in the rain.
Yeah.
It's no fun. So yeah, I think in those moments, especially because it was like mid-March, so we were kind of running out of time, I started to sincerely doubt that RateGame was going to get anybody rating games.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
Well, you launched on time.
I did.
You reached that milestone, that goal.
Yeah.
You launched RateGame, and something interesting I think to share with everyone is a really valuable step you took. I don't know if we knew it would be valuable at the time, but it ended up being everything we needed when you first launched RateGame, was finding this bracket community, this bracketologist community, and reaching out to individuals in that community and having phone calls, Zoom calls, interactions through Twitter, whatever, X, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, shout out to them, the bracketologists, because I remember the days of us building RateGame, and the bracketologists, you were launching it for March Madness.
Right.
And every single person you spoke to validated your idea, was excited about it. It's like, yeah, man, I'll rate a game when it's launched. Let me know how I can help spread the word.
Right.
It was really incredible to see that sort of support from total strangers. And I want to say, at least for me, as someone who was building this with you, I was very happy to see that from the bracketologist community.
That gave you some relief?
Totally endeared by all of them.
You thought I was less crazy?
Yeah, but I think what I saw was that that purity, that sports passion that you were talking about, that spark that you found in yourself again with sports. You were finding that within other people as you were building this app. These bracketologists don't get paid for picking the most perfect brackets and for watching all these March Madness games and posting about their thoughts or whatever it is. They don't get paid to do any of that.
No.
They do it because they love the sport. They love, the challenge of college basketball. I don't know,
It's a pride thing. It's kind of like a badge of honor.
Yeah. And I think you hadn't tapped into that community in a really long time.
No, I hadn't.
You were in the community of sports gambling and betting and things like that. So I think, meeting all these bracketologists, you found people who, with the spark that you had just refound in yourself, that have had that for a long time now.
It's almost like those folks that get baptized or whatever, like down by the river.
Yeah.
It's like almost like a revelation. It's like, a return to self. Yeah, I think, first of all, like having people validate your idea that is not your friends is huge. And that's another tip. I don't know if I want to be giving tips on this stuff, but for people that are thinking about pursuing an idea, the first sign that you should do it is when folks that you don't know think that it's a good idea. That's a good sign. And that's what I had in the bracketologists. They were complete strangers to me. I found them just by chance, by doing research, and reached out to them, cold blindly because
Mhm.
that's what I do for a living anyway. And started to like hold little pitch sessions with them, little half-hour pitches.
Yeah. So when RateGame was launched, you saw, these bracketologists and anyone else who you had met,
Mm-hmm.
your friends, anyone else, come in and start to rate these games.
Mm-hmm.
How did it make you feel to see that?
Yeah, and it felt incredible. I felt just super honored. It was like very humbling actually to see people again, like it's one thing to, validate an idea that's like out and like verbal, it's almost like, yeah, I'd use that. It's another thing to actually, when you're not in the room, somebody's rating a game, right? And you're not there asking them to do that. Somebody's doing it just cause, and you're creating that behavior and you're almost, responsible for that new thing in their phone that they didn't have yesterday that they're now using. It's just incredible to, just be a part of it. And it's almost in the same way I feel an obligation, and I almost feel like I am now responsible to keep improving it and, be the reason why, it's part of like their sports watching experience or just like their sports experience, period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the value RateGame brings to users today?
So I think...
And has that value changed from the original idea you had? Or is it the same, but it's just grown?
No, I think it's definitely changed. And I think it's going to keep changing. If it stays the same, then I'm probably not doing a good job. So I think first and foremost, if you remember this way back when, it was like, rate the game. And if you don't do it in 3 hours, then you can't.
Right.
So I was so naive to think that, if you watch the game and you didn't rate the game, right? Or only people that would watch the game would rate the game. And therefore, like the people that watch the highlights don't deserve to rate it. So I was, high and mighty thinking like, I'm only building this for people that are either at the game or watching it on TV, nobody else.
Yeah.
Couldn't be further from where we are today, which is like all games on RateGame, as soon as they end, they're there forever. So I think that was like the first big learning for me, is because, after March Madness, the first sport that we had besides college basketball was the NBA. NBA is international. So I had immediately, pretty much overnight, a lot of folks that were sleeping when these NBA games are going on, waking up and not being able to rate them.
Yeah.
So, them reaching out and being like, hey, I really want to be a part of this community, but you're preventing, you're the one blocking me out. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Like, it's embarrassing, and that was like a big learning. So to answer your question, right, I think the first thing that it started with is, people that are watching the game are the only ones that can rate it because they're the only ones that matter.
Yeah.
And speaking to you today, it's like people that watch the game or watch the highlights or, wake up and see that it's a good game and then go on Twitter and see it.
Read about it.
Yeah, or people that find RateGame and then want to rate the Super Bowl, which happened like 4 months ago.
Right.
Or they want to like rate the games that they've attended, or they want to rate
that they remember.
They're one of the ones that they remember. There's like some of my favorite ratings that have nothing to do with the game, but more so to do with where they were or who they were with.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the ratings that I remember almost immediately is like the one guy who's like, I watched this with my homeroom students.
Mm-hmm.
It was like one of the best days of my life. Or this one profile, saying like, I watched this game with my brother, and it's like one of the best games I've ever seen. Just like a regular game, nothing special. But that, I think, is what's so valuable in my mind. It's just like this moment in time that you have forever, just as a memory in your pocket.
Yeah. A place where people can go to share that chant.
Yes.
On an app.
Yes. You keep coming back to this. I love it. This is your thing. You're
It's my
anchoring
thing.
on
I
it.
mean, it's a good feeling. I think
Oh.
it's the way that I describe a sports feeling, like that feeling that you get from
The group chant,
the group chant,
the stadium chant.
the stadium chant.
Mhm.
It's such an amazing feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's incomparable. Nope, that's not the word.
Incomparable.
Incomparable. All right, so I thought it'd be fun to do a little bit of rapid fire with you.
Sure.
Some, fun questions that I came up with on my own.
Okay.
So I'm sure this will be the first of many rapid fires we play if this goes well. Right? This goes well. All right. So let's do some fun questions.
Okay, babe.
Name someone you admire in the NBA.
Someone I admire in the NBA?
Yeah.
I feel like that's just like a loaded question.
It's rapid fire.
Yes, Josh Hart.
Why do you admire Josh Hart?
Because he has blossomed into his role as a Knicks utility man and was kind of like a career sixth, seventh man off the bench kind of guy.
Yeah.
And he came here to New York 2 years ago and immediately kind of clicked with his old college roommate. Yours truly.
Jalen Brunson, my team captain.
Right.
Before I knew that Jalen Brunson was the Knicks team captain, he is, right? The team captain?
He is, babe. Yes.
Okay. Before I knew that he was the team captain, I was like, that's my team captain.
That's it, really?
Yeah, remember I said, I was like, that's my team captain, Jalen Brunson.
Okay.
And then you told me he's the actual team captain. I didn't know that.
Sure.
Oh God.
Oh God, big sip.
Excuse me. Went down the wrong pipe.
Oh
Cut.
no.
Cut. Okay. Please sit back down.
Uh-huh.
The interview's not over.
Sorry.
Okay. Name someone you admire who's unassuming in sports in general. Somebody who like nobody maybe would think of. Maybe someone.
Name somebody who's unassuming in sports in general. Rapid fire. I would say somebody I've always admired in sports that's unassuming. It's a great question. Probably. I mean, maybe a weird answer, but I feel like Messi's kind of like low key. I feel like he's.
I mean, Messi.
Yeah.
Messi's not unassuming. I mean, maybe unassuming for me. I wouldn't think you would say Messi. But Messi's, just feel like, I mean, everyone admires Messi.
Yeah, but I feel like he doesn't. I feel like the way that he presents himself, it's not very in your face. I feel like he's, for the most part, like a family man and kind of likes to keep by himself. I feel like even when he won the World Cup, it was more of like a monkey off his back than it was like something that he had to prove, which he did, by the way. I think that's like the most pressure any human's ever had on them. And I feel
so true.
Him winning that was just like a relief.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Actually unreal. I had one of my best friends who's Argentinian flew to Qatar when he knew that Argentina was going to go to the final. So he was waiting to find out if Argentina was going to go to the final. And then I guess like 3 days before, Dalmiro.
He did?
Yeah, like 2 days or 3 days before it, when they knew Argentina was going to go to the final.
He went to Qatar?
He bought a World Cup ticket. He bought a flight to Qatar and he went on his own, all alone.
Really?
He went to Qatar all on his own. Is he Argentinian? He's Argentinian.
Wow.
To go see Messi win the World Cup.
How much was that ticket?
I mean, let's not even talk about it, but it was...
That's insane.
It was something that
you don't talk about sports stories. That's a story.
It's an incredible story.
Incredible story.
It's an incredible story. Yeah. He probably paid thousands of dollars. And he was there in person. He went by himself.
And then he flew back?
And then he flew right back. He was probably in Qatar for 2 whole days.
Whoa.
He just went to go see Messi win the World Cup. When he knew that they were going to go to the final, it must have been just a couple days before the final.
Like a week.
Yeah, maybe a week. And bought a ticket.
That's insane.
There's probably just a handful left, let's be honest. Bought a ticket, bought a flight, went on his own. I don't even think he slept.
Probably not.
and he went and saw Messi win, and it was very cool. He said it was one of the most incredible things he's ever seen in his life.
That's a 10. That's certified 10.
Yeah, that was so cool.
I didn't know that about him.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. Okay, who's your favorite athlete right now?
Right now in this moment, man, probably. I want to say, yeah, it's probably Brunson.
Brunson?
Yeah.
Because he's just the cutest.
Yeah. Because he's the cutest.
He's the cutest.
Yeah.
He's a hustler. You know, he works hard.
He's a hustler. Yeah. He's just a
He's very focused.
Yeah. He took a huge pay cut to be
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Took he left like $50 million on the table.
What?
Yeah.
For what?
So that other people could, get contracts.
Wow.
Yeah. So he didn't, he left room on the table for Josh Hart and others.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's my team captain.
Correct.
Okay. If you could buy a sports team right now, which would you buy?
The Knicks.
Yeah. You're OG.
Actually, you know what? The Knicks are kind of in good hands. I'd probably buy the Jets.
Yeah. You would turn that ship right around.
I would.
Yeah. I like that for the Jets.
I'd love that for the Jets.
Love that for the Jets. Name a coach you've admired and why.
A coach I've admired? I love Nick Saban.
Who's that?
He used to be the coach of Alabama.
Oh.
Former coach of Miami Dolphins.
Okay.
He's just like, one of those living legends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did he do?
He won consistently.
Yeah.
Championships.
Wow.
Yeah. At Alabama.
That's amazing.
Yeah. 5-time national champion.
Can I ask this question just because it just happened?
Sure.
Who was your favorite team to watch in March Madness?
Favorite team to watch?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, great question. I love Florida.
Yeah.
Florida was just
What'd
electric.
they bring for you?
This guy, Clayton, he was just like out of nowhere. He just rose to become this clutch shot maker, ball handler.
Yeah.
Every time they needed a bucket, he went out there. And whether it was, versus Texas Tech when they were down, or the national championship when he had that first half that was terrible, he came back in the second half, and
Yeah, I always saw on RateGame when Florida games would end, people would write Clayton. Everybody's rates.
He was the MVP.
Yeah, Clayton. Can you name a player that's let you down?
A player that's let me down? Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. We had high hopes. Nick was actually at his first game when the Jets kicked off their season.
September 11th.
Oh, God. What a day.
What a night. It was a night game. Yeah. We shouldn't talk about it.
Maybe we shouldn't talk about it. Keep that one there. All right. If you were stuck on an island, on a deserted island,
okay,
name 3 sports players you'd like to be stuck with.
On the island?
Yeah. And why?
Let's see. I'd probably want to be stuck with Jeff Teague.
Who's that?
He's a former basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
He's just got so many hilarious stories.
Amazing.
Yep.
Why would you want to be stuck with him?
Because we got a lot of time to kill.
Yeah, he's got great stories. Okay.
Let's see. I'd also love to be stuck with somebody like, I feel like, who's just like a smack talker? Probably somebody like Jameis Winston. You don't know who this is.
I know exactly who this is.
Oh, that's right. You went to school with him.
He gave my best friend Laura a go-gurt. I didn't go to school with him. My best friend Laura went to Florida State.
Did you see his TikTok?
With him, and he gave Laura a go-gurt in class. Did you see his
TikTok today?
No.
He did the anxiety thing.
No. The song?
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
He did that.
Oh, that dance.
Yeah, with like the...
That's funny.
He's like famous.
You just think he's funny?
He's hilarious, dude. He's like a personality, honestly.
So you've got two personalities. You're going to bring the last person who's resourceful. Anyone resourceful? I mean, we're on a deserted island. Who's going to help you catch the fish? And,
sure.
hail
Somebody
down
who's
the plane.
resourceful. Yeah, I'd probably bring my
Build a boat.
guy. I'd probably bring, who is resourceful? Who could just get it done when I need him most? I mean, Josh Hart.
Yeah, Josh Hart would be such a
He's
team
an ace.
player for it.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's got like luck on his back.
Luck on his back?
On his shoulder, on his back.
Luck on his side?
He's your lucky.
He's got
luck on his side.
Yeah.
That I think you guys would be found with Josh Hart.
You think we get off the island?
I think you get off the island. By picking Josh Hart, I think you just got off the island.
Love that.
You saved yourself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, good answer.
Good question.
Oh, thank you. I came up with that on my own.
Very nice.
All right. A player who has passed away that you would like to have dinner with today, if you could.
Player who has passed away that I'd like to have dinner with. Kobe.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You feel like you teed that up for me?
Oh, I mean, I didn't, but
Kobe's
there's
my
plenty of
guy.
other ones. But yeah, Kobe, I would say. Same.
Hmm.
If you could be a professional athlete, what sport would you like to play?
I've thought about this a lot, and I feel like I would be best served as the quarterback of the New York Jets.
Wow. Yes, I love that answer.
Put it there.
It's a great answer. Bring it right here. Bring it home. Bring the Jets home.
Sign me up.
Bring the Jets home.
4 more years.
All right. Well, Nick, Mark, George, this concludes our interview.
Rate Game Real Talk?
Rate Game Real Talk today.
You end it with the...
Yeah, I'm going to end it on...
With the lightning round?
With the lightning round.
Love that.
I guess if there's anything that you'd like to share that's upcoming and new for Rate Game, that'd be cool.
Anything that's that's upcoming and new?
Yeah. That people can expect.
Well, I think something that they can expect is we're working right now on the next features set, which will be geared towards like creating lists of top 10 games or however many games. Basically, we're trying to model it after Letterbox, so you can have like any sort of combination of games, whether it's like games that you've been to or my top Knicks games, my top LeBron games.
Very cool.
Jets.
I like that.
Yeah,
I'd like to know that.
So working on that right now. Also, I think we're working on some deals. Always.
Okay, well, thanks for your time today, and it was a pleasure being your host.
Thanks so much. Rate Game Real Talk. Great job, babe. All right, it's a wrap.
All right, that's a wrap.